Hey everybody, my name is Scary Spikes and welcome to another Star Citizen video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the formidable Anvil Hurricane. This thing is fast, agile, and it's got tons of firepower to boot. But of course, before we get started, just as with any other video, we need to give a quick shout out to one of our VIP Gold contributors. If you'd like to skip this, there are timestamps in the description as always. And that shout out is going to go to Gohad, and I know that we've given him a shout out before, but I just wanted to thank him again for continuing to support what I do here, as well as for being a VIP Gold contributor and being a part of our community since almost the beginning. If you'd like to check him out, by the way, he does stream as well. He's a really fun streamer to be around and pretty interactive. You can go check him out in the link, which I'll post down in the description below. Of course, you can join our own stream as well. We stream Wednesdays and Fridays over on Twitch at 8 p.m. Eastern. Would love to see you there. We have a lot of fun. It's a super exciting, fun, and rewarding place to be. And we have a great community there that shows up regularly. So make sure to come and join us, as well as on our Discord community, the links for which can be found in the description below. Well, that's going to wrap up the intro. Let's go ahead and get started with the video. The Hurricane is definitely in a league of its own, and not just because it has a ridiculous amount of guns and a ridiculous amount of DPS, and because it's really fast and one of the best two-person ships of this size and in its price bracket, but it's also got looks to kill. I just really love the paint on this thing, at least on the bottom, and I'll show you what I mean once we get to the top. Let's go ahead and start with the bottom of the ship though. We can see here at the very back of the ship, just in front of the thrusters, we do have a little hole, giggity, that you can get into if you want to take over the guns, which are mounted in the form of a turret on top of the ship with 4 size 3 guns. More on that in just a little bit. And then of course that is also mirrored in the way that the pilot gets in the ship as well, which will be from the bottom. So their chair literally comes right on out of the cockpit and comes down to ground level. You get into it and then you get whisked away into the beautiful cockpit up in the actual ship. I do like this. I think it's pretty cool, and honestly, this thing's got an iconic silhouette. And look at these size 4 hardpoints up here with these size 3 gimbaled guns. You can replace these again. More details on that in just a little bit later. Personally, I do like the way that you ingress and egress out of the ship. I do also like the way that the missiles are tucked in, as you can see there, just inside of the little air inlets, I guess if you can call them that. Maybe stabilizers, but I'm not a big fan of how the wings wrap around and basically double up on themselves like that. I don't know why. I mean, I just, it doesn't work for me, and I think that possibly mechanically and structurally, it might even be better just to have them out straight, if not just to give the ship a better stability in atmosphere flight. So for example, maybe better handling, better characteristics, and better stability when flying through atmosphere. I think that would definitely be a lot better. But again, that's a personal gripe and it shouldn't really matter or influence the ship in any way. Let's go ahead and look at the rear of this beast, giggity. Now we can see that we have 2 really big thrusters, and this thing is going to accelerate you to a near 1200 meters per second at the top end. Really, really fast for something with this much firepower. And honestly, if you're going up against a Hurricane like you will, if you choose to go up against high-risk targets, for example, they are in that category very, very much so rightfully, because they are an incredibly high risk, especially when you leave them unattended. There's definitely going to be a potential for doing a ton of damage there, so if you're ever fighting against these, make sure to take them out, because they are so maneuverable and they have so much damage. And of course, they will always have a gunner in the gunner seat there on the turret at the front. Speaking of guns, we've got some really big ones up here. Now, I did mention these were size 4 hardpoints, but that doesn't mean that it comes with size 4 weapons. This is the CF337 laser repeater. And as you can see, we have 2 of them here, and they are gimbaled. So the downside of gimbaled is that you could technically run size 4s because you have size 4 mounts, but you get a better aim assist with the gimbal. So it depends on whether, first of all, that even works, if it's not broken in the current patch, which in this patch, it's okay. It's not the best, but you will become a better pilot by learning how to use fixed weapons without gimbals. You'll also benefit from having really, really good damage that way as well, because you'll be maximizing the amount of damage that you do. So again, speaking of guns, let's go ahead and have a look at that top turret here. As we can see on the outside, Now this has full 360-degree range of motion, which is really, really nice. It's even got a really good range of motion from vertically speaking, so from top to bottom, so you can get a really good eye on stuff that might be flying over and around you, which makes this thing so deadly. What I was talking about before with the paint job kind of shows itself here. Now, I'm the kind of person that I really enjoy symmetry, and as far as the ship is built, I really personally like it myself. But if we have a look at the other side of this thing, we've got white and gray and red. Awesome. Now, if we look in the top side of it, we've got white and gray and green. And why you would have green and red on the same ship, or any other opposite color for that matter, again, I know it's a small gripe, and this ship is really truly awesome for what it is, but in my opinion, I think this could have deserved a better paint job, at least from the factory. Now that being said, there are different paint jobs that you can get. You can go to the RSI website. There's a bunch of different paints, including a really cool glacial one that I really like, which will totally transform the look of this ship. But I think that they definitely, for the price point, could have included at least a skin with it, or maybe just made the default paint look a little bit nicer. Anyway, let's go ahead and have a look inside the ship, and then we'll talk about everything that we can find on the inside, as well as, of course, move on to the outfitting guide, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are waiting for. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so we're inside the cockpit now. This thing's got a really, really cool cockpit, honestly. There's a few things to go over here, and I want to start over at the sort of the top sides here, and then work our way down throughout the rest of the controls here, which is just quite a lot of them, but it's relatively simple once you get to know it. So let's go ahead and start off at the top there. Now, first of all, the first thing that I can say is that there is a lot of visibility in this ship. If you look around, literally this is the edge to where my camera can go. And if we look to the other side, sorry about the sun there, we will see that that is the edge of where the camera is willing to go. So literally we are getting pretty much 180-degree field of view here, which is really, really quite nice, and definitely helps with your situational awareness, which if you're flying a ship like this is definitely helpful. The very first thing that stands out here is this thing right here. This is the annunciator panel. This is what's going to show you the most critical areas of your ship that need your attention. So anything to do with power, heat, your weapons, your thrusters, your quantum drive, or any massive failures there, you're definitely going to be able to see that here. And of course, you know, if any of these lights come on, it's basically like a check engine light in your car. You might want to go to the nearest space station and go ahead and get that repaired. If we look over to the right-hand side, looks like we do have like a little switch there for the HVAC, which is kind of cool. I guess that's your air conditioning. It's getting a little too hot because you're flying in the face of the sun as we are. Go ahead and flip that over and start the AC. I only wish that worked, but that is pretty cool. And as with many ships in Star Citizen, tons of detail to be seen here, even in stuff that's inoperable. So very, very big praise here going to the all the artists and 3D modelers of this and all the other ships in Star Citizen. Is if you look around like this, you know, you're bound to find a lot of amazing details. Let's just go ahead and maybe bring this down a little bit so we're not looking at the sun. There we go. Okay, so as you see, we do have the brand new UI. Now, this is going to be starting at Alpha 3.14. So if you're watching this video a little bit further in, 3.15, 3.16, 4.0 maybe, I don't know, then, you know, this may have changed at this point. But as of 3.14, this is the UI that we have. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because it's pretty much the same on most ships. But it's going to give you a lot of information. And if you haven't checked that out, you can go and check out the video that I made about my favorite features of 3.14. That'll give you some insight about that. All right, let's go ahead and move down into the rest of the controls of the ship here. Now, as you can see right in front of us here, we have what looks like a 3D radar. I do wish that this was sort of moved up a little bit there, sort of at more of an angle towards the pilot's eyes. But this is kind of cool because it gives you that 3D effect, and it gives you a little bit of a sense of depth perception to see sort of where things are. But let's go ahead and move on to the rest of the controls on the ship here. And as you can see, it's a very simple setup. This is not too confusing, although there are a lot of buttons and doohickeys and so on and screens that can definitely make this not too appealing for, I guess, a newer pilot. Don't worry though, we'll go over it one at a time, and I promise it's going to be very easy and painless, for the most part. So the first thing that we'll see here at the very top, right under the radar, and we've got a couple of MFDs. Now, these are two auxiliary MFDs, and the reason why I say that is because they're a little bit smaller than what looks like the main MFDs down here. So if you don't know already, you can actually go ahead and click the menu button. Now, these are fully interactable to about as much as you can expect. and you can go ahead and change these out to your preference to get different types of information about your ship in different situations. I like that having the target module up here by default, the target page. It does make sense. You want that to be in your field of view, and maybe sometimes you're not wearing your helmet inside of your ship if you're encountering bugs like running out of oxygen, which definitely was a thing, and I'm not sure if it still is. But having this there is really nice because it's going to give you information about the health and shield status of your target, as well as information in one of the corners there as to what kind of target it is. And that will help you to better sort of understand your situational awareness with respect to being in a fight. Do I want to engage this guy? Do I want to run away? Do I want to maybe, shoot from a distance or get close up? These are all different choices that you're going to make based on the information that is found in this panel. So very important to have that there. Me personally, though, for the left panel here, I think I would go with the shields because I would definitely like to keep an eye on my shields. So having these two together is usually good. But again, you can go ahead and change that based on your preference. If we look a little closer here, we can see that we have a few buttons here. We've got the POW or power button. And we've got the aux buttons. These don't really do anything. There is a power off sort of text menu put on top of this, which does kind of make sense because you've got the POW button right there. Beautiful little engraved Anvil logo inside. Again, I love the little details in these ships. It's really, really nice. And then we have the QTM and of course your jump button. So this is pretty cool. I really wish that these were actually physical buttons, and I've been sort of complaining about this for a really long time, and I know that there's a lot of other things that CIG needs to work on before they start worrying about buttons. But deep breath. I do hope that this is going to be a thing in the future, because making these buttons more physical is definitely going to increase the immersion tenfold, if not more. But this is just really cool that they've paid enough attention to actually properly label these and give them a layout that seems believable. All right, we're going to go ahead and look down. As we can see, we've got our nice big stick there, giggity. And then, of course, we've got a MFD here on the left, and on the right, for those of you who are wondering, MFD means multifunction display. So it basically speaks for itself. It allows you to change things. This one looks like it does have a few more options. So again, that's why I was calling this one an auxiliary MFD, because some of these MFDs will not allow you to pick certain things. Whereas here, as you can see, we have options for things that we don't have options for up there, namely maybe the communications menu, and the missiles menu, and so on. Actually, that's interesting. I've never actually seen that menu before with regards to the missiles, because it was only within the weapons. So that's kind of interesting that they put that there. But if you go into the weapons, if this did work, then you should be able to have a tab for your missiles, unless, again, they've changed that. So these kinds of things can change quite often, so it's always good to pay attention to the patch notes. And that being said, we have our second MFD here, and we've got a few buttons over here, and this is actually a little silly. We've got 3 different exit buttons. We also have the open exterior button, which is going to open our canopy, and press to unlock. So what that does is it unlocks the ship for our friends to be able to get inside of it if they are not in the party. If they're in the party, they should still be able to access the gunner seat, for example. But if you have issues with your friends not being able to enter your ship in this or any other model, typically you want to keep it unlocked. I like to keep mine locked just because most of the time I fly solo, and when I have a bigger ship, it's usually a pretty big opening. There's another giggity. We're going to have to start keeping track of these. And usually they have a pretty big opening, like a ramp on the Carrack, for example. So, it takes forever for that thing to open and close. And by that time, anybody can get in. So it kind of, this thing doesn't really work as well as it should at that point. But in that case, we've got some more buttons down here. They're not really operative. If we go down here, we can see that we have the engine off, engine on. That's pretty cool. Again, you've got the little engine toggle right there. That's pretty awesome. Under CPY and LHT, we don't have anything here. And if we look over to the left and the right, you see that again, we don't have too many other options here, even though we do see other types of switches and buttons and glowy thingies and all sorts of spaceship stuff on that side. Not too much on the left-hand side there. Of course, we've got our throttle, and then we've got our stick in the middle and rudder pedals underneath. The last thing that we have here, though, is the eject. Now, this thing does have an eject, which is pretty cool, and I'll show that off to you in just a second. But that is definitely really nice to have. If you're really, really in trouble and you don't want to die and maybe get picked up by one of your friends, you can just go ahead and click this. You can, of course, also go and bind this to a particular key that you want. Now, I use a HOTUS, so I don't know a lot of the different controls that are by keyboard, or the default on the keyboard. But for this, I do have a button on my HOTAS that is bound to that. So I can hit that button and then boom. And we're out of the ship. And then the ship exploded, which is really interesting because we just ejected. So there you go. Eject / self-destruct handle? Jeez, Anvil, you sure do make things convenient. All right, let's go ahead and reclaim the ship at a station, and we can go ahead and talk about how I would outfit it, and then that'll be it. So let's go ahead and backspace. As you know, if you've seen one of the shorts on my website, if in doubt, backspace out, baby. Okay, so we're at the ship loadout manager, and we'll try to keep this relatively quick since I seem to say the same things over and over in each of my videos in this section of the video. So we'll keep it nice and quick. I'm going to put the links for the default stock build, as well as my build in the description below. Those will be links for Urkel.games. You can go and check them out, follow along, play along with them. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, any of those things, you can chat it out with me down in the comments below. Of course, you can also feel free to list your own builds and meet us in the Discord and have a chat with us there. That being said, we're going to go ahead and get started with Propulsion, as we usually do. And I'm going to go ahead and recommend Atlas. Okay, we're going to keep this nice and quick, nice and easy. Atlas is a pretty good overall middle-of-the-road, decent quantum drive. It's got a really, really good fuel efficiency. It's got a decent acceleration and decent on the speed itself, but it's not going to win any awards for any one of those categories in particular. But that being said, great overall drive, and again, you'll enjoy the fuel savings, so this is what I would pick for that. If, however, you are like me, you'd probably want to pick the Spectre, and again, this kind of goes into what I was saying in my previous videos. It gives you the benefit of having a lower signature while also allowing you to travel very quickly, much more quickly than the Atlas, in a short line. So for example, between Magda and Ida, or any other moons or planets within its own subsystem, like if you're traveling only within Crusader, or only within Hurston, or only within Microtech. Those are instances where you might want to use one of these, and the reason for that is because their acceleration in short distances is much better than all the other drives, and they have the added benefit of reducing your signature, which makes you a little bit more difficult to target and see from long distances, even against AI, which you'll be facing if you're doing bounty hunting anyway. So that is definitely something to go with, and I would recommend. If you don't have it, can't afford it for whatever other reason, the Atlas is just fine. Let's go ahead and move over to systems, and there's a few things to note here with the systems. First and foremost, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner here, you'll notice that our shield generator is a size 2, and we also have a size 2 power plant, but our coolers are size 1. Okay, I don't think that the game is fleshed out enough to really make a massive difference, especially not in 3.14, where a lot of things have been kind of baselined, which really they have, so it really negates the choice to pick something relevant for your situation, but you still have a few choices, so we'll go over that real quick. So for the coolers, they come with bracer stock. It's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and recommend Glacier. Do not ask me why I have so many. I have absolutely no idea, and I'm glad 3.15 is coming. Thank you, CIG, for finally wiping everything. I've been begging for it for such a long time, and I'm finally glad to see it coming. I don't think it's because of me necessarily. I don't think I'm that important, but also given that, you know, the weapons have been sort of standardized, the shields have been standardized. So with all these things kind of going baseline so that they can be built up again and be relevant and make the choices for them be more relevant, I think doing a wipe is super, super good. Keep that in mind, by the way. If you want to have some fun before the wipe happens, you've probably got about a month. So before 3.15 drops. So make sure that you spend your money, you go have fun, go to the bar, have drinks with your friends, buy a bunch of ships, enjoy your life, because we're all getting reset to 0 in about a month when 3.15 drops, okay? So you've heard it here. Probably not first, but you've heard it here. In any case, I digress. We're going to go ahead and go with the Glacier here. Now, you can also go with the Snowblind. I only have one of these. I'm actually going to do that because the Snowblind is the alternative for stealth, and I'm going to try to kind of build this thing out for stealth, even though it has these ridiculous guns on the top of it and 2 big size 3 beaters in the front as well. But that's what we're going to go ahead and do. Again, the Glacier is just fine. I don't have any more of the Snowblinds, so I'm going to choose a Glacier to pair with that. 2 Glaciers are fine, 2 Snowblinds if you want to go stealth. That's the way that I would go. Now, for the power plant, I know you guys, if you've seen my videos in the past, you're, oh, he's going to rant about his JS series again. Here it is, JS 400, and that's the one I'm going for. Honestly, I could go with the Eclipse as well. Now, this is a class, stealth class with a grade A. This is definitely something that I would recommend if you're going more of a stealth build, but again, you know, the JS 400 is absolutely fine. It'll do you just dandy. Now, moving on to the shield generator, and again, not too much of a choice here. There's been a lot of changes, like with the Sucron, for example, that's now only absorbing 50% of ballistic fire, which is, I wish they would have left it at 100% with the boost of firepower that ballistics got, but what are you going to do? Write an angry letter to Chris Roberts? Well, I guess you could do that. Anyway, I digress. Again, let's go ahead and pick something, and it doesn't really matter at this point what you pick. I mean, the Rampart and the FR-76 and all these different ones, they'll all have exactly the same regen rate and the same shield pool, because basically the thing that was done with shields is now every shield of the same size is basically the same thing. They're all normalized for now. I'm sure they're going to be built up at some point later on, but for now they're all normalized, which is fine. But what I would recommend, though, if you do have any of the Umbras, or if you don't have any and you can afford them, I would recommend running an Umbra, especially for a stealth build. The reason why is because it's really functionally no different than an FR-76 or a Rampart, but it's giving you that added benefit, again, like I said before, about reducing your signature. If you're doing bounty hunting, that can mean an extra few hundred meters to maybe even a kilometer or so, getting sort of that edge on your enemy and sort of taking them by surprise. Giggity. But that being said, that is what I would go with, and that pretty much rounds out that selection of systems. Let's go ahead and move on to weaponry. Okay, so with weapons, honestly, I'm not going to make too many big changes here. The only thing that I probably would change is I would change out these things right here. So we have the weapon left and the weapon right. Now, if you're relatively new to Star Citizen, do not change these. The CF337 laser repeaters are absolutely fine. The Panthers are good. They have decent range. They do good damage. They have a really good fire rate. And laser weapons, although they have regenerating ammo, they have a decent amount of it. So you don't really have to worry too much about it, and it is a very forgiving weapon to use if you're a newer player. However, if you're a really good pilot and you're really good with most ships of this size, I would actually recommend changing this mount, because these are size 4 mounts with size 4 gimbals on them, which can hold only a size 3 weapon. Remember, anytime you use a gimbal, which is basically sort of an aim assist, so to speak, it's sort of like a computerized head upon which the weapon is mounted, and it helps you within a certain degree of field of view to get a better sort of a target acquisition, as well as sort of keeping the reticle on the target so that you can do damage. If you are really, really good with your shots, though, and you're more of a veteran player, I would definitely recommend scrapping this Veripak S4 gimbal mount for the venerable CF447 Rhino laser repeater. These things are much bigger. In fact, you can kind of see how much bigger they are. Like, that is ridiculous how big that is. Giggity. Somebody throw up how many giggities we've had so far in this video. Anyway, it's much bigger, okay? If you're a good shot, you're going to do really, really well with that. So, that's what I would recommend if you're a good shot. If you're not a good shot, or you're a newer player, or you're just terrible like I am, then you can go ahead and use the gimbals, but I am going to go ahead and, for my personal build here, I'm going to go ahead and recommend the CF447s, because you've just got so much more DPS. Now, with these other ones, honestly, you can't really change them. You can change between all of the different types of weapons that you have, but you can't change sizes because they are all mounted on the turret on the top. And honestly, 4 size 3 weapons is plenty. Remember, the Freelancer Miz, which is a badass ship, okay, that is built for war, that thing's got 4 size 3 weapons for the pilot. You've got 2 size 4s for the pilot and 4 size 3s in a ship that's like, what, half the size or even less than the Freelancer Miz. That's why this thing is so powerful. It's just stupid in the best of ways. So I would go ahead and actually keep these. They're great. You can replace them with ballistic weapons. I'm not going to go into that here because I wouldn't recommend it personally for my own build. But you can certainly do your research on what weapons have what damage and what range over at Urkel.games. Just click on the weapons button on the left-hand side on that website, and then you can compare all of the ballistic weapons there and choose what you like. Now, for paint, I don't have any paint here. So, you know, I mean, that's fine. You can go ahead and check out the RSI website, though. They do have that. I think it's called Storm Surge paint. It's like a black and blue. That looks pretty sick. And there's also a Glacier one, which I really, really like myself. And I think if I ever do pick this up as a pledge, I might also pick up that paint with it, because I really don't like having this green and red. I know I'm just bitching nonstop, but I mean, look at it. It could definitely look a lot better. And for the money they're asking, I would have expected as much. But anyway, I digress. Let's go ahead and move over now to the missiles here. It comes with sparks, ignites rather. The ignites are okay, I guess. If you don't have the means to change these, then you're fine. They'll work. That's all I'm going to say. They'll work. If you do have the means of changing them out, though, the strike force is what you want. Really good range, and also pretty good damage. They are cross-section as well, which is nice. So it's basically just better tracking as opposed to sticking with just IR or just EM. But that, again, just my own personal recommendation there. I would go with the strike forces, and Bob's your uncle. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so very much for watching all the way until the end. I appreciate you very, very much. Yes, I'm still in here. I know. We had a 30K, actually, and that's why I just didn't run out to the lobby. I just decided to finish up the video in here. Nice and private, quiet little space. But in any case, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so very much. Make sure to join me over on Twitch, 8 p.m. Eastern, Wednesdays and Fridays, and our Discord community. Links for those are in the description. And go ahead and check out sspgaming.com as well. We've got some new stuff coming out, and I will be making bigger bottles of the barbecue sauce. If you haven't checked that out, !barbecue if you're ever in our Twitch, or just head over to sspgaming.com. Check out the barbecue sauce. It's delish. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for me. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you being here, and I shall see you in the next video.